Hey, what is going on? Welcome to the 13th edition of the Rumenation podcast. I'm your host, Rumen. And as always, we are building a nation that's branded by motivation through a simple process called cultivation. Peak athletic performance comes in all sizes, backgrounds, and creeds. By definition, people may have different opinions, approaches, and thought processes about what that definition may be, just like success, right? Everybody know what it's like to um, success may be subjective. For example, peak athletic performance may be PRs in practice or breaking world records or making it on the Olympic podium or just the competition at the highest level, right? But it all falls back into peak athletic performance. This podcast has centered its focus on that. The definition of peak athletic performance for our podcast is a sports term called rumination, the capacity or ability to sustain performance under mental pressure of competition. So I ask you, what is your definition of peak athletic performance? You guys, I am here live in the building with Bree Walker all the way from Germany. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
I really, really appreciate this. So going just kind of getting everything started, since this is kind of a holistic health and sport performance podcast, kind of just let everybody know, introduce yourself and let people know what you do. What's the name of your sport? This is amazing, guys.
So I'm Bree Walker. I'm the pilot of the Australian bobsleigh team, and I compete in the two-man and the new event called monobob, which is the one-person bobsleigh event.
That is amazing. And just for people who don't know, so Americans say bobsled, but that's actually not the right term. It's bobsleigh, right?
Yeah, I guess it depends where you come from and where you learnt the sport. I originally started the sport in Canada in Whistler, and so everyone was calling it a bobsled there. But then now I'm based more in Europe, and they call it bobsleigh. So yeah, I guess it just depends where you come from.
So Americans, what she's trying to say is get your act up, right? Say it right. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. All right.
No,
Um,
they just want to be individual. It's fine. It's fine. We'll
so,
accept it.
all right. So yeah, all right. So we're gonna move forward. Give us kind of a fun fact about yourself. Any fun, weird, goofy fact about yourself, and then we'll get rolling.
I guess the funnest fact I can think of, I am terrified of birds and wombats. I'm not sure if many Americans know what a wombat is, but it's a native animal from Australia. But I'm so scared of them. They terrify me.
That's hilarious. That's funny. Um, I'm sure that if I saw a wombat, I'd be running the other direction as well. So
And they're
kind of.
super fast. It's so crazy. They'll chase after you.
Oh wow, How are they ferocious?
I
Can they?
don't
Will they
know.
bite you?
I think it's more that they're scared. But
Uh,
I mean, like our neighbor at home, he was riding a bike, and then a wombat came out from the bush and like just barged into him. So I don't know whether it's they're ferocious or they're just dopey.
Dang, that's crazy. Okay. Um, perfect. Well, we're gonna get rolling. So the first question I have for you, Bree, is, um, you know, you just got done competing at the World Cup. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And I guess I can just get started. What's the number one lesson you took away from you? I know this is you said it was a big learning curve. It was just
Mm.
an opportunity of a lifetime. You said you mentioned earlier, and I just want to give the audience what's the biggest lesson you took away from that?
Yeah, like you said, it was a big learning curve for me this year because this was the first year I just did all World Cup races. And so I'm competing at a really high level against like amazing athletes. And so it's hard because I'm trying to think of what was the biggest lesson I learned this year. But I think the main lesson that I took away from the season was really just trust in your process. Find your process. First of all, you got to find out how you want to attack a race, And then if this is working for you, you got to just trust in it, because there's training sessions during the season where I would walk away and be like, that is a horrendous training session. I do not want to be going into the race after this training session. But you just have to trust in your process. And often I came out with a way better result than I was expecting, which is always so exciting, you know, like I
Yeah.
never tried to put expectations on my results, because I think if you do that, you often end up disappointed.
Hmm.
So then for me, it was just going in there, trusting in my process, not having any expectations. And yeah, I tend to come out very surprising myself.
So a couple of things there, folks. I know the athletes. I have a range of athletes that watch, kind of health practitioners and just family and friends. Look, you guys, what she broke it down was finding your lane, your purpose, and try not to put that expectation on yourself. I mean, can you, if you could dive into that a little bit more and just kind of give an example, like what do you mean by not putting too much expectations? I love it. I totally understand it, but I just wanted to kind of shed some light on that.
Okay, so like for me, it would be comparing myself to other people. I would be like, I want to be this person, this person, this person. No,
Right.
you gotta scrap that aside, because all that you really have an effect on is yourself and your results.
Hmm.
So you got to turn inwards and turn to yourself and be like, okay, what can I do to get the best results for me? Because at the end of the day, that's all that you can affect.
Right.
And you comparing yourself to other people, that doesn't help. And so that's where expectation comes in, that's where pressure comes in if you start doing that. So you just got to turn inwards and be like, okay, what can I do to get the best results? And then so for me, it would be getting enough rest, it would be getting the right training in, getting the right nutrition in, learning the tracks. So like as the pilot, I have to learn the corners and study my lines driving down the track.
Wow.
And then it's also, I want to be able to support my team as well. And so then it's just checking in with my team, making sure they're trusting in their process and they're doing all right, because ultimately their performance is going to affect my performance. So yeah, it's just those kind of things that allows you to execute your process at the end of the day.
100%. Wow, that was perfect. Going into that actually goes in perfect to what I'm going to go next. So you mentioned more than one thing that plays a huge factor. So not just, you know, speed time. So like, or for example, just you said sleep, you said nutrition, you said so, and how I look at that is that's holistic, right? It's not just one factor that can play. So the next question I have for you is how does holistic cultivation, um, the more than one factor play a huge role, and how and why? Why does that play a huge role?
I guess you got to look at it. We're a functioning system that has many different systems, and we're affected. And each system is affected in many different ways. And so for me, I know the things now. Like I'm 28 years old, and I've been an athlete for quite some time. I know the things that affect me the most. If I don't have sleep, that
Oh,
affects me a lot.
ooh,
Um, if
yes.
I'm eating incorrectly, that affects me a lot.
Mm,
And there's some days where I'm like, I need to sacrifice a small training session
mm,
there and for so I can go get the right rest.
right.
And so it's just being in tune with your body. I think a holistic approach requires you to be in tune with your body. And if you're able to do that, but this takes time. Like you can't just expect, like, an 18-year-old, a 12-year-old to be in tune with their body.
Right.
It comes with time and being an athlete for a very long time. So it's just, yeah, it's something that I think you learn along the way, is how to be holistic.
Yeah. 100%. Um, and I'm sure you would agree that holistic health goes in perfect synchron together, perfect with sport performance, right?
Mhm, for sure. No, it's
100%.
definitely, you gotta look at it from a physical, mental, spiritual approach.
Hmm.
And I think if you're not fulfilling your spirit with your purpose, then that's going to affect your performance. If you're not fulfilling, like doing the right things physically, that's going to affect your performance. And if you're not doing the right things mentally, that's going to affect your performance. So it all intertwines.
So let's talk about bobsleigh for a second, more in depth. So I'm not, as someone who's never done it, know anything about the sport. How many times how many times do you go around the track? I mean, is there track differences around different parks, or or the stadiums that you go to? Is it different? Can you tell that it's different? Obviously, you said you have to study, plays
Yeah.
an important part, but yeah, talk to us kind of like kind of some fun nuggets about like how fast you're going.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So there is 3 tracks in Germany, 1 in Austria, 1 in France, 1 in Segura, and they're just the ones in Europe. There's also some in North America, in Whistler. Calgary did have a track, but it was recently knocked down, which is really sad. And in America, you have Lake Placid and Park City. There's a few other ones that are still operating, like Beijing, obviously, where the next Olympics is going to take place. Pyeongchang, where the last Olympics took place, and then there's one in Russia. So there's a few tracks all over the world. They're only located in the Northern Hemisphere. Yeah, we can hit speeds averaging between 120 or 110 to 130 kilometers an hour. I don't know what that is in miles. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
But yeah, they tend to be around like 1,000 to 1,500 meters long, which I think, is that a mile? I think so. But oh yeah, there's also another track in Switzerland, which is actually the only naturally built track. Each year they build it out of snow, and it's so beautiful there. But yeah, that's a fantastic place to slide. And yeah, we tend to train when we're going out for training. We'll do 3 to 4 runs a day.
Wow.
And but then when it comes to race week, this year we were allowed 3 runs for 2 days, and then we would race on the weekend. So a race is 2 runs, and it is the fastest time out of those 2 runs combined will be the winner.
Wow.
And then, like I said at the beginning, for the women, there's 2 events. It's 2-man and monobob, and the men, it's the 2-man and 4-man events.
Wow. I just checked. So 130 kilometers, 2 miles per hour you're going 80 miles per hour. That's that's pretty fast. That's unbelievable, because I can't even imagine. The sleds are not like super like small and they're pretty big, right?
Yeah, they're pretty heavy. Like a sled with your team, so with the 2 people, weighs 330 kilos. And so by itself, it's 170. So at the start, we have to push this sled, and in the monobob, it weighs closer to 170. So I'm pushing that thing by myself. So that's been a big learning curve over the last few years, to go from a 2-man event where I have help to then go to a monobob event where I'm doing that solo. So yeah, it's been fun learning those, like that new style of pushing and everything like that.
Right. I mean, you got to be some type of strong to be, pushing that down, and that's crazy. That's crazy. It's really interesting to understand more of your sport. So let's talk about pressure. So we're gonna kind of jump in the second half of the podcast. By the way, you are doing absolutely amazing. Thank you for your time, Bree.
No worries.
So talk to me about pressure. What would you say? Which form of competitive pressure is easier to succumb, aka give in, right? Mental or physical, why or why not? So which form, again, the question is, which form of competitive pressure is easier to give in? Mental?
Do you mean give in as in like easiest to overcome?
Easiest to, which one is strong? Which one is, that's a good question. that would be able to take you off your mental game, or
Ah,
take you off your game faster and strong, like just take you off your game, mental or physical.
for sure, mental.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is with physical, you can be physically fit and you can be physically unfit. It's your choice whether you play into either of them, and either of them can affect your mental focus. I think if you are feeling very good, this could have a positive and negative effect on you. It's what you choose to accept. So positively, you could be like, hell yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But then negatively, you could be like, oh my gosh, I'm in such good shape, I need to perform. And so then it's what you choose, what path you choose to go down. And it's the same as whether you are unfit. So just say if you're in the warm up and you're not feeling so fit, you can go down either path. You can be like, well, I'm not feeling the greatest, but I'm just going to go out there and do the best I can because that's all I can do. And negatively, you can be like, I'm not feeling great. I'm not going to perform. Why am I even bothering?
Mhm.
And so it's your choice whether the path to go down it is. And so I think mental game is the strong, needs to be the strongest when it comes to competing.
Would you say that's underestimated at the professional Olympic level? Would you say that's underestimated, as in people don't take that serious as much as they should?
I think it has been in the past, but I
Mhm.
think people have woken up to it.
Nice.
I definitely think that there's been a huge movement over maybe the last 5-10 years.
Mm.
It isn't a secret anymore, like maybe in the past you see these unbelievable people achieving great things and they're like, what is their secret? And
Yep.
they're always looking at the physical side of things.
Oh,
What
yes.
training are they doing? Da da da.
Man.
But it's what's going on in between their ears, that's the
Ah,
secret.
that if you are not telling the gospel truth, I don't know what is, but that's 100% facts right there. Oh my gosh. Uh, I can't. It irks me when they try to dissect the Tom Brady's, right, or like Selena, um, when she's in tennis, and they try to ask, what's the magic pill, and
Hmm.
how they elaborate on the mental stuff. Like, you can
Yeah,
do the
yeah, yeah.
physical, but like, I feel like the higher level of competition you compete at, it's, to be honest, this is what I've heard from other athletes. It's less physical. It's more this.
Uh-huh.
It's more the resources and tools you got to pull out of here.
Yeah.
Because everybody at the high level is fit, right? Everybody's going to be somewhat pretty good at what they do.
Mhm.
It's the mental stuff that's
And I
the.
think it's ingrained in athletes to work hard. Like you have some really talented athletes that don't need to work as hard because they have just this natural gift.
Right.
But most athletes, and I know this definitely for myself, it's ingrained to work hard.
Hmm.
But you can always work hard, but then if you step to the line and your mental game isn't like 100% on, then
100%.
all that hard work is for nothing.
100%. I could not agree. I could not agree. Um, so at your last um competition that when you were competing at the World Cup, if you had to in retrospect, on a scale 1 through 10, like, how were you ready to sustain performance under mental pressure of competition? One being, I was not ready at all, or 10, I could take on the world, right?
It's hard. I think I want to like go past the last race that I had, because I was done then.
Oh,
I was really mentally and physically tired. It'd been a really long season,
100%.
biggest season that I'd ever done, and also with doing two events, that was also
Right.
a new game changer for us. So I want to head back to world champs,
Yeah.
because world champs honestly was an absolute disaster for me this year.
Whoa.
And I'm okay to talk about it now because I think I've learned so much more from this, and I think it's really important for athletes to talk about the times that they weren't doing so well, because they're the biggest learning curves. You can go out there and you can win all day, but sometimes you don't even learn anything from this because it was just a flow and everything just kind of came together and it worked fantastic.
Right.
But I think this for me was the biggest learning week that I've ever had. Um,
Wow.
the week previously was the two-man world champs week, and me and my teammate Sarah Blizzard, we crashed out in the first training, and
Oh wow.
she got really hurt. She had a really bad ice burn, and then
Oh,
my head was just like boom. And like, I mean, crashes are pretty rough on your head, and especially in Altenburg, which is where world champs was, it's really rough.
wow.
And so for me, I had to question, I go, am I going to be able to perform at the level that I know we can with
Right.
the state that we are in right now? And I hate it because I am not one to give up. And I was just, but I had to admit that no, I wasn't going to be able to do that. So it was really, I had to eat a big piece of humble pie and just be like, I can't do this this week. So I went away for a week. I recovered, and I was ready to come back for the monobob world champs.
Mhm.
And then the monobob world champs came around, and I've never been scared of my sport. I feel like I'm a little bit of a daredevil like that. I've never
Right.
never had that set of fear, but I came back and I was so nervous. I was really, really nervous to step onto the track and attack this. And I drove like I was scared. That first training session back, I drove like I was scared, and I wasn't driving myself like myself, and I really wasn't, like you said, I wasn't mentally prepared for the challenge. And so again, me and my coach sat down, and he asked me the question like, "Hey, can you do this?" And that's when there was like a fire lit inside of me, and I was mad. I was mad that I let the fear
Mm.
and maybe the pressure get to me.
Right.
And I was like, this isn't you. This isn't you. So you can either choose to walk away here,
100%.
and or you can attack this head on and just do the best you can. And I mean, I had maybe a little bit of hype around me because I had won a few World Cups this year, and I just needed to put all that aside and be like, I'm just going to go out and perform the best that I can because that's all I can do. And I worked hard. I worked so hard. I studied my notes. I got rest because for me, actually resting is quite hard. Like I'm always wanting to do stuff and like, be fixing the sled,
Yep.
training, all this kind of stuff. And so I had to rest. I had to not communicate with people. I switched off social media. I worked so hard on the
Amazing.
little things. And I got to the race, and I was able to push and perform. And but the thing that I was really proud of me being able to get to that race is
That's
that I was
amazing.
mentally ready to attack.
Wow.
Maybe I wasn't maybe at the level that I normally would be, but
Right.
because I was so low and I'd worked my way back up, I
Yeah.
was mentally ready to attack. And it was just really disappointing that on the second day, because World Champs is run over 2 days, so you have
Yep.
two run each day. And on the second day, on the first run, I was making a comeback. I was making steps back up, and my times and my lines were so much faster than the previous day. But I'd gone into the hardest corner in the track, and my steering handle broke off, and I had no idea what hand happened at this point. Like my hand was just waving all over the place, and but by the time I realized what happened, it was too late, and I actually crashed. And
Oh.
this was the honestly, I walked away from this, and I think everyone thought I would be very upset that obviously I crashed out and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, well,
Right.
for starters, there was a equipment malfunction, so it wasn't completely like my doing.
100%.
But they didn't know the backstory behind that week and where I was and where
Right.
I'd gotten myself to. And
Right.
so I really wasn't like, I was obviously upset I couldn't finish the race, but I wasn't upset at myself for that
Right.
performance because I had worked my way back up to a point where I could actually attack.
Wow.
And yeah, that was a really rough week, but I am glad I went through it because it woke me up to a lot of things that I need to work on myself.
And I can't imagine like I can I see what you're talking about on how you weren't like off the hinges extremely mad just because you literally did everything possible. Like you worked uh harder than you could ever imagine. You did everything to the T, and you worked on the internal process as well and the mental stuff. So um that's a beautiful story. And it's amazing to story to understand, and give the audience to kind of like the an example of how you really climbed up right back to the at best ability. And at the end of the day, you leave off where you were at and leave the
Mm.
chips where they may and let the chips fall where they may. And at the end of the day, you can't control everything in life, but you can control how you work.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I worked so hard, and even though that was the result, I just had to move on. And the next
Right.
week, I raced again, and I won a bronze medal.
There we
And so,
go. Congratulations. There you
thank you.
go.
So, like, this is what I really want to be able to share with athletes is that you have times where you feel like you're at rock bottom,
Hmm.
but you need to be able to leave that result behind and move on to the next thing, because the next thing can be a podium finish if you want to put yourself there, you know. And so yeah, for me it was a big eye opener that I can have possibly one of the hardest weeks in my sporting career and then move on and have a great success.
And I think that right there, what pause what you just said. I feel like that takes a certain ability or an art form of to hit rock bottom, and then I mean, everybody's licks their wounds for a long time, for a period of time, but you just had to go. I mean, you had to move forward.
Mhm.
And that's I mean, I feel like that's people don't it requires a lot of energy and focus and drive to be able to just to bounce back,
Mm.
and hit it and move forward.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to lick your wounds. So
Right.
it's like, where do you want to put your energy into? Do you want to put your energy to feeling sorry for yourself, or do you want to put your energy into having your next success?
100%, Bree. Wow, that's amazing. So last kind of question I have. You were absolutely doing amazing. Thank you for your time, Bree. And so if there is a young athlete out here, that's looking forward to the future, seeing what they can do off season, just some solid advice for the young athlete right now, or a peer athlete or older athlete, doesn't matter who watches. If they want to get some solid advice on how they can better themselves, mentally and physically, if you have any solid advice, please give it to us.
I think one thing that, if you just want to look at improving, I think it would be look at your weaknesses, but be honest with yourself with what your weaknesses are. Whether that's physically or mentally. So like physically, if you be like, all right, because everyone loves doing what they're good at, right? Like
Right.
we all want to stick those
True.
big weights and
Yeah.
because we're good at them and we can and lift big numbers and it pumps yourself up, but it's the little things that actually do make the difference. And it's the same with mental gains, like for me, I know my mental weakness is rest.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, what am I going to do to be able to maximize my rest this coming off season? So for me, this is why I'm in Germany right now, because I was like, if I go back to Australia right now, I have to be in 2 weeks quarantine. Okay, forced rest, awesome. But B, I have to travel around Australia because my family is spread all the way throughout Australia now.
Wow.
And at the moment with COVID, as soon as there's a COVID case out, Australia shuts all their borders. So
Um.
if I'm in one state and they shut all the borders, I can't get to my family, then that's going to be adding extra stress for me. And then also you've got to overcome jet lag and then
Yep.
just to travel and all this kind of stuff. And for me, I was like, no, that's not what I need right now. I need to rest. And
Right.
so I sacrificed going home this year to be able to maximize my rest. And so
Wow.
I just think that if you are honest with yourself about what your weaknesses are and then actually do them, because that's they're going to be what is going to be the game changer changes for you.
Right. Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. Bree Walker in the building. I really appreciate it, all the way from Germany. And yeah, I look forward to your future, and I hope you get a restful rest. And looking forward to what you do in the future. And thank you for your time.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you.